This is my movie review for the movie Hacksaw Ridge. I guess we'll start off with what my opinion is of the movie. I thought the movie was actually very good. I don't really watch a lot of like war kind of movies, and it was very interesting of like the purpose behind this story and just like the overall like story itself of Desmond Doss. I didn't even know who Desmond Doss was when I first heard this movie come out, so it was very interesting to like go through his life and learn about him as a person and as a soldier overall. Um, some of my favorite scenes from the movie include Desmond Doss saving his comrades when he's up on Hacksaw Ridge and praying to God, asking for him to help him save one more soldier, and when he's lifting him down the ridge. It's so inspirational, and like you can really see the strength of Desmond Doss through those scenes, and it really makes you like admire like how much strength he has through his faith, and it makes you wish you had something that you were that passionate about, whether it be your faith or just other things in your life. I also enjoyed the scenes during basic training, the parts where they're like joking around because they're so like ludicrous with their insults that they throw out, I guess, because I've just some of the insults that they threw out was like called him cornstalk, and it was just like a nice comic relief from the like seriousness of the situation. I really didn't enjoy though the part where he gets beat up. That was very depressing and sad, but it was also kind of moving because he even though he was ridiculed by his own people, he still didn't like get them in trouble. He just dealt with it, and that's like really admiring to like just keep persevering even though you have all these people like doubting you and like actually trying to hurt you. Um Another scene that I really liked was when Desmond finally came down off of the ridge after that really terrible night where he was saving multiple people. It was very moving because you could see like how scared he was coming down. Like when the first time his one of his comrades touched him, he like jerked and was like, don't touch me. And you could see like how affected he was by the deed that he did, but he would still do it anyways because that's just who he was. And going along with that scene of like him coming down, the next day when he had to go up and his whole battalion waited for him to pray because they went up on the Sabbath day, which is the Christian day of rest for Desmond. They all waited, and they even got a call saying, "Why are you waiting?" And he's like, "We're waiting for Doss because we don't want to go up." So like it really showed how much Desmond had an impact on his comrades, and like how much they really like admired him, and like they wouldn't do it without him because they wanted to make sure that they always had somebody who had their back even in times of peril. Um, I also really liked the ending scene, which was when Desmond was lifted down through the like a swing. This really didn't happen in the movie or in real life actually, but it was just very touching because it was such a good closing to the movie of like he became one with God because he was like lifted through the clouds. Like he could really like embrace his spirituality and his like faith, and know that it kind of seemed like he was like one with God, and he like forgave him for putting him through all the trials and stuff, and that he felt like he did what God had wanted him to do. And it was just such a beautiful scene. And then the movie ended, so I was like, that's a really nice way to end this like very pent up like war stricken movie. It was just very nice. Um Onto like film style. One thing that they incorporate in this movie is foreshadowing, and you can see this when the beginning of the film starts because Doss and his brother are back in their hometown and they're climbing up this like mountain, and then all of a sudden they like get to the very top and it's just on this big old cliff and ridge, and that's kind of like foreshadowing of like where Desmond will end up at later on in his life, which I thought was very neat. I hadn't noticed that the first time I watched, but the second time I watched I was like, that was pretty smooth, Mel Gibson. um Another thing that I noticed during the movie was that Mel Gibson decided not to play music during the time of like dialogue, which is kind of common in movies where it's like they play like the little like soft background music. But in Hacksaw Ridge, they really didn't do that, or I didn't notice it. And I think partly of that was because they wanted to focus on the message that Desmond and Dorothy and the commanders were all trying to get to the audience, was of like how truly moving this story was and how like different it was, because like nobody, I've never heard of anybody who was a conscientious objector, so it was really like something different and new that I've never seen. So I think the use of not playing music when they're talking really emphasizes the dialogue that they're having, so that the audience will pay attention to what they're all saying and like the message you're supposed to pull out from this movie. um the battle scenes were very graphic, which is, I mean, it's not surprising because I mean it is a war movie, but it was a lot more graphic than I was expecting. But I think that just goes to show like how that time period was and like what they had experienced on Hacksaw Ridge, because it was nicknamed Hacksaw Ridge because everybody died, whether you were experienced or not. Not many people came down. It was even nicknamed that because it's actually called the media escarpment. So they had to nickname it something because of all the horrific stuff that they had went through. And so making those scenes very graphic shows that um just the horror of war and like how those images would have really affect a soldier. Like it affected me, so I can't even imagine what the people who had like actually been through that, how they functioned afterwards. Another interesting thing was that during the battle scenes they did play music as compared to when they didn't play music when there's like dialogue. So I really think like the musicality of like the music of the movie really emphasizes what they want the audience to focus on, whether there's no music and you want us to focus on the dialogue of the characters, or if you have music and then you want us to focus on the images that are being produced in the movie. So that was very interesting. Going to casting, we have Andrew Garfield as Desmond Doss, which I thought was a very good cast because Andrew kind of has a baby face, I guess. He has a very soft and like innocent face, which like um helped him embody Desmond Doss because he was just such a like kind and giving and sweet character, and you could really see that through the portrayal that Garfield did, and he did a very good job. Vince Vaughn was in the movie, which as one of the like he was a person in basic training, like commander, sergeant, and it was really surprising to see him in this movie because I've only seen him in movies where he's like really funny and serious, but then again it also made sense that he was in this movie because of the character role that he played. He was like the funny sergeant who always cracked jokes and stuff, so that it made sense, but it was very surprising to see him. We had Sam Worthington as Jack Glover, which was the um, man who was trying to get Doss removed from his battalion because he wouldn't um, carry a gun. I thought that was a good choice because Sam really likes to, how do we say, play like tough character roles. So it's like it makes sense that he would be one who would be petitioning for Desmond to be left. Teresa Palmer, who would play Dorothy, was a good choice because she has the air of femininity that was needed for her character, but then she also has like that tough backbone to her, like that inner like strength that you can see just based off who she is as a person. So that really made it believable that she was able to handle her husband being gone and really in this very horrifying situation. Um, Hugo Weaving was Desmond's dad, and I didn't really know this actor, but just based on his acting skills as like a tortured soul in the movie, I really like felt for him, and I felt that he did a great job. It was like showing how much war can really affect like the soldiers, no matter what battle you're fighting in, and he did a very good job at like bringing the tying the elements of like family and stuff into war. Luke Bracey played Smitty, which was Desmond's friend slash tormentor, and um, he was a good choice because he's like you have this air of like toughness to him, But then as you go on through the movie, you can see that he like has a really kind heart, and like even though he tormented Desmond, which is funny because Smitty as the character in the movie wasn't actually really a person in real life. It was just a fictional like character that was brought upon um, as a way to show all of Desmond's tormentors just in one character. But he was really good as this choice because he was like they were like foil characters. So like Desmond was like kind of the innocent and like portrayed as weak character, whereas like Smitty was the strong and like brute of the character. So like they balanced each other out very nicely. And that's my review on Hacksaw Ridge and Desmond Doss. To the actuality of what it is in real life to demonstrate the heroism of Desmond Doss and like how extraordinary his task was, which it was extraordinary. For HistoryNet, we have that the battle details were mostly correct. There were bullets that went through people's body. People were shot down before they even realized what was going on. There was really thick smoke. Everything was basically accurate during the battle scenes. The movie forgot about the beliefs of the other soldiers, which is kind of interesting because you would think that other people would be wrestling with their Christianity. So that was kind of one-sided. Battle of Okinawa wasn't the first battle that Desmond Doss had participated in. He also participated in battles in Guam and in the Philippines. And he earned a Bronze Star. So they left that out. Made it seem like he was just a newbie in battle for Hacksaw Ridge. On History versus Hollywood, something in discrepancies were that Desmond and his mom, or Desmond's father and his mom didn't get in a fight. It was Desmond's father and his uncle, and the mom called the police. So then Desmond had to hide the gun, so that was inaccurate. Desmond didn't meet Dorothy at a hospital, his wife. He met her at a church. Dorothy also didn't become a nurse until after Desmond got back from war because she had to support her family. There wasn't any evidence found that Doss had like lifted Japanese soldiers down the ridge, which would be inaccurate to what they showed in the movie. Desmond didn't get injured while on Hacksaw. He got injured later on after leaving Hacksaw, but he did get injured in the same way that they portrayed it as a movie. He did kick a grenade, and then 17 pieces of shrapnel hit his body. He was also injured a couple other times by like a Japanese sniper. Some other things is that he did lose his Bible, but instead of, as the movie had the Bible brought back to him, the Bible just stayed lost, and he hoped that whoever had it would help them. There wasn't a court-martialing. They didn't go to trial, as the movie portrayed. It was all resolved before anything could actually happen. Desmond's dad did help him, though. He talked to a colonial, and the colonial like threatened to come out and see what was the problem. So then they hurried up and fixed the problem and was over with. Desmond was ridiculed while during basing training, like it portrayed in the movie, but he was never beaten up, like the movie had said. He was a conscientious objector. He did pray on Sundays. They did wait for him the day that they took over Hacksaw Ridge for him to pray, because it did occur on a Saturday, which is a Sabbath day. The big and key point was that the Desmonds, they left on a bus in the movie, but a train in real life, and they passed his house, and he threw a brick saying goodbye to his dad, so that was inaccurate. The movie really exaggerates how much of his dad was a drunk and abusive, so that was also inaccurate. Other than that, the movie kept pretty accurate. I mean, there was just little details that, for movie purposes' sake, they had to like incorporate. They also incorporated the idea of like the love story, which wasn't really, I mean, it was a part of his life, but kind of a minor detail when compared to like just this war movie. But other than that, the movie was actually very accurate in everything. Oh, also, Smitty wasn't a real person in life. He was just kind of like a fictional character to symbolize everything, all the tormentors that Desmond had throughout basic training. But aside from those, the movie was pretty accurate and I really enjoyed it.